Ollie got a call from a worried husband. He said, Ollie, can you meet me at the coffee shop tomorrow at like 10 a.m.? And I said, sure. Yeah. Um, yeah, we can meet there. He'd said a coffee shop near Ollie's office. And thanks. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you then. I don't really want to talk about anything now or here. I thought that all sounded very mysterious, but he wasn't going to, violate the privacy concerns of a new client. So he didn't think about it much and just went there at 10 o'clock the next day. While there, sorry, the guy came up and he said, hey, I'll get you a coffee. Do you want anything from inside? And I said, sure, yeah, like a vanilla latte would be great. So the guy came back with 2 vanilla lattes. One for Ollie, one for himself, obviously. He said, thanks for meeting me here. This is going to sound weird, but I'm really worried that this is going to sound crazy. I'm beginning to be worried that my wife has a second family somewhere, or at least a second husband. And I don't have any good reason to think she wouldn't be loyal to me, but, well, I do. I said, it's okay. A lot of people call private detectives when they're worried about something like this. It's totally normal. It happens. I'm not going to lie to you. It does happen. Just as often we find that nothing's going on. So that's good to hear. Let me tell you what's going on. So my wife sells vacuum equipment for scientific labs. That's her job. She works for a company that makes these vacuum pumps and these vacuum manifolds and stuff. And so she goes on these business trips. And she's gone a couple times a month for a couple days. And it's been that way for years. She'd been in law enforcement, and then she decided she didn't want to do that anymore, and she's been selling this vacuum stuff. But what? But for the past couple of months, when she comes back, she seems very distant and uninterested, especially in me and in the kids too, but mostly uninterested in me. And I don't know. I mean, I don't want to pry in her work life. She's always been very private about it. But I'm worried that maybe sometimes she's not going to sell vacuum equipment, but she's going to see a boyfriend or something. And I said, okay. This is a pretty normal thing for me to look into, so you're in good hands. Why don't you let me know? I assume she tells you when she's going on these trips. I said, yeah, it's on her calendar, and it says where she's going. The next one she's going to is he pulled up his phone and looked at the calendar. She's going to Philadelphia for 2 days. Yeah, she's leaving not this coming Friday, but the next Friday. So she'll be in Philadelphia until Monday night. I said, okay, does she drive or fly? I said, no, it depends. If she's going to someplace like Florida or San Diego, she'll fly, but she'll probably drive to Philadelphia. I said, all right, and does it say on there when she's leaving? I said, yeah, it's, she's planning to leave, she's got it on here, she's very organized. She's going to leave at 7:30 a.m., so she'll have breakfast and then head out. I said, all right. I'll follow her for you. You should look and make sure that, my rates are okay. He said, yeah, no, it's fine. I've got some money of my own. I said, and what do you work also? He said, no. I mean, well, yes, I work, I take care of the house and the kids. And I do a little bit of other, freelance things here and there. So, yes, I work, but I'm at home most of the time. I said, okay, all right. All right, so that'll be the plan then. So, on Friday, it's Friday morning, she's leaving, right? I said, yeah, exactly. All right. Well, you won't see me, but, I'll see you then. But okay, thanks. And they had their coffee and started talking about some other things. And then they parted ways. It's early Friday morning, Ollie got up. And he went to the house. He was there before it was even really all the way light outside. And he just very quietly tucked himself up on the underside of the car, where he couldn't be seen. He learned how to do this. It's not the safest thing, honestly. But an octopus can squeeze into some tight spots. And he'd found ways in most cars to find a safe spot. It wasn't too hot from the engine. And this was a pretty standard car. It was just a Toyota Corolla. So he'd hidden inside Toyota Corollas several times in the past. And that's what he did this time. And then he just waited. About 7:20, he heard the doors unlocked and a couple of voices. His client, and he was pretty sure it was his client's wife. And some bags or something heavy was put into the car. And then he heard them say goodbye, and she pulled off. Ollie got himself to a position where he could kind of see the road. The first thing that he noticed was when she got out of the neighborhood, she didn't go up 95 the way you would go to Philadelphia. No, she went around 695 and headed west. And I thought that was odd. But, maybe she had to run some errands or stop by an office or something. But no, she got on Route 70 and just started driving. I thought this was pretty strange. He was beginning to be worried for his client that something really might be going on. And well, they drove a good part of the day, probably 5 or 6 hours. She didn't really stop for meals. She must have had some snacks in the car or something. Excuse me. She drove all the way out, past Harper's Ferry, and then up into western Pennsylvania. To a small town there. And all I saw was a sign that said, "Welcome to Pittsburgh." And I thought, well, that's strange. Maybe he just misheard. But no, I remembered looking in the phone, and it said Philadelphia, and here they were in Pittsburgh. It's still Pennsylvania, but they're two very different cities and two different parts of the state. Well, they pulled into a motel. And she got out. She unloaded some stuff. She checked in. I got up and looked around and noted where he was. Got an address. He'd seen which hotel room or motel room she'd gone into. And I thought, well, this is all very worrying. But she didn't meet up with a boyfriend or anything like that. She was in the hotel, and I sort of got a couple of glimpses into the hotel, and she was working for sure. But she didn't see any vacuum stuff. Well, I looked, and there was still a vacuum pump in the car, but she hadn't brought it in with her. She had paperwork and maps of buildings. And to Ollie's surprise, he caught a glimpse of a gun and like a long-range microphone. And I thought, oh, what have I gotten myself involved with? After a while, she came out of the hotel. Ollie'd noticed some rustling, and so he'd gone back to hide in the car. And she did get in the car, and she drove. And she got out of the car and met with a large group, like 5 people. He didn't have any way to get out of the car because the meeting was in the middle of an empty parking lot. So he had to just sit there, and he couldn't really hear because they were over at somebody else's car talking. There's this whole group of people, some of them big and kind of rough looking. Some of them more normal. One of them wearing some clothes that all I didn't recognize. It weren't normal American clothes, but all I couldn't spot. Couldn't tell what they were. Couldn't place them. And they met there and they talked and they had paper on the hoods of cars. Probably there for an hour or so. And then they had some pizza delivered and they ate. I was getting hungry. And over the next day, there were just a bunch of meetings like that. Some of them they parked and Ollie was able to get out and sneak out and kind of see what's going on, but not really. After about a day of this, Ollie decided that he needed a break. It was just getting too exhausting. So he got out from under the car, where he'd been hiding. And he went very quietly, very sneakily, out around the back side of the motel, down the block, and to a diner that he spotted. And he pulled up a chair there, and he ordered some bacon, some eggs, some toast, and a milkshake, and a coffee. My goodness, a coffee. He hadn't had coffee much in like a day. He was hungry. As he sat there, having his breakfast and his coffee, all of a sudden, a file folder plopped down next to him. He looked up, and there was his client's wife. She said, "Do you mind if I join you?" And I said, "Not at all. Be my guest." She ordered a cup of coffee and a tuna melt. Said, "Ollie, the octopus." I said, "Yes, hi, nice to meet you." Said, "You don't have to pretend. Open the folder." Ollie opened the folder, and it was a dossier about him. A whole folder full of information about his public records, the stuff he'd done, and some private stuff that most people didn't know about. She said, "You've been following me for about a day. I don't know how you tracked me to Pittsburgh, but you don't know what you're getting involved with. And I need you to stop." I said, "Well, it's actually not quite true." She said, "Oh?" The truth is, I've been following you for more like 2 days at this point. I followed you all the way from Baltimore. She said, "No." I said, Yeah. So I don't know what your deal is, but the thing about it is I'm on a case, you're my case. It makes it real awkward now that you know that I'm following you, but I never give up. You've read my dossier. You've read my file. You've collected my file. Just that I assembled your file. And you're right. You don't give up. And most people wouldn't have noticed you. Heck, apparently I didn't notice you for the first day you were following me. That's embarrassing. I said, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm pretty good at my job. I don't mean to toot my own horn. She said, well, here's the deal. And she reached into her breast pocket and pulled out a wallet. She put it on the table and opened it up. And there was a badge and a Federal Bureau of Investigations ID. I'm FBI, she said. I'm here in an investigation. And I can't have you interfering. I can't have you messing it up. So you're going to tell me who hired you. And maybe, if your answer is good enough, I won't figure out some way to put you in handcuffs. And, I don't know, chain you to a radiator until I have time to deal with you. I said, okay. I didn't realize you were FBI. I said, I know you didn't. That's the idea. Now keep your voice down. But I am. You can call that badge number if you want. I said, no, I believe you. Okay. Truth is, I was hired by your husband. I said, oh, no. He said, yeah, he didn't know what was going on, that you'd been coming home and acting weird. He was afraid something was up. You were seeing somebody else. He felt really bad hiring me, but he couldn't stand the thought of losing you. I said, that husband of mine is sweet, sensitive, and smarter than he thinks he is. All right. Here's the deal, Ollie. You're going to get on a bus, and you're going to go back to Baltimore. And you're going to tell my husband that I'll talk to him when I get home. And you're going to tell him that I'm not cheating on him. Here's the other thing you're going to do, Ollie. You're going to give me your card. And when I get done with this assignment, I'm going to give you a call. Because I don't know if we can have any regular job for you. There's a whole process to becoming a federal agent. I suspect you would have started that process if you wanted to. But, you know, we could use a little freelance help every now and then. And if you manage to slip my attention for a full day, then you've got some skill. So, finish your breakfast and get out of town. But, good job, Ollie. That was pretty slick. Sometime you have to tell me how you did it. She took her last sip of coffee, slapped down $3 to pay for it. Oh, wait, it was a sandwich too. Slapped down $10, and off she went. Now, Ollie hadn't brought any luggage. Oh, she took the dossier with her. Ollie hadn't brought any luggage, and he was fully busted by the FBI agent. So he finished his breakfast, paid his bill, and asked for directions to the bus station. When he got back to Baltimore later that afternoon, well, not later that afternoon, it was the next morning, he went straight to his client's house and said, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is your wife loves you. She's loyal to you. You don't have to worry about that. The bad news is I can't tell you why. Because your wife is also way more clever than either of us were giving her credit for. She found me, which is impressive. Most people don't find me. But she promised that when she gets home, she'll tell you everything. Husband said, okay, thank you for trying, I guess. I mean, you're telling me that she's being true to me, and I believe you. So, I mean, I guess I can call you and tell you when she tells me. I know that you hate to have an unsolved mystery. I said, don't worry about that. She might be a little mad at you for having a private eye, so you just worry about patching things up and getting things right with your wife. I'm here as an employee. I don't need closure. Good luck. I think you got a fine woman there. I don't think you have anything to worry about. And that was the case of Ollie and the FBI agent. And that's also how Ollie got connected in with the FBI, which as a private eye is a very useful connection to have.